Yesterday, they could have blown the building up. They could have killed us all. They could have destroyed the government. People coming through the windows had backpacks as big as my desk on the Senate. They should have been challenged. Warning shots should have been fired and lethal force should have been used once they penetrated the seat of government. Those backpacks could have had bombs, chemical agents, weapons. We dodged a major bullet yesterday.
Folks, I don't know how people aren't talking about this right now. What you just heard was Republican Senator Lindsey Graham from South Carolina speaking about the Capitol breach that occurred a few weeks ago. Now, before we get into this, right off the bat, as we've said before in a previous episode, we 100% condemn any of the violent acts that took place during the Capitol breach. We had officers being dragged out and beaten to death. We had destruction of property, people breaking windows. It is my hope, as well as Taylor's hope, that anyone responsible for any of the violent acts, for assault on police officers, the murder of a police officer, destruction of property, that those people will be arrested, charged, and brought to justice and serve whatever time they are meant to serve. But what I want to do is I want to shift the focus to the people that were not dealing in violence, the people who were unarmed, the people who were merely in the building and on the Senate floor. And while I do not agree with the breaching and the entering of the building, let alone the floor of the Senate, there were people inside who were basically just standing around, walking, and eventually made their way to the Senate floor. Now, Lindsey Graham made it a point to say that deadly force should have been authorized against anyone who made their way to the, quote, seat of government, in addition to using warning shots. Folks, I'm sorry, but this does not sit well with me. While I don't agree with entering the building, I don't agree with any of the violence, obviously, and I definitely don't agree with stopping the process of government, in this way, especially dealing with something like this, something that pretty much had no basis of truth at all. The election being stolen. It just doesn't sit well with me. Should people have been on the floor of the Senate? No. But does the mere being on the Senate floor give the government the authority to use deadly force against unarmed citizens? Now, I've been hearing a lot of people say that they believe that this has never happened before in our history, that no one has ever interrupted the process of government. Now, I just want to bring everybody back to 2018 during the Brett Kavanaugh nomination and subsequent protests that followed the nomination. USA Today writes, quote, angry crowds flood Capitol Hill to protest the nomination. NBC News writes, quote, protesters pound the doors of the Supreme Court following the confirmation. You can Google around, you can see that there are photos of protesters inside the Senate office building on the same floor that the Senate Judiciary Committee votes. They were arrested, they were charged, and those charges typically are dropped as they were acting, in a political exercise. Finally, at approximately 3:44 p.m. that day on the floor of the Senate, protesters interrupt the final Kavanaugh vote, which was reported by CNN. Video and the article will be in the show notes. So all violence aside, for someone to say that this has never happened before, it's just false. I mean, people have been on in the Capitol building. They have been on the steps. They've been inside. They've even been in the gallery on the Senate floor. And they have even stopped the process of the government. Now, getting back to Lindsey Graham's statements about the deadly force and the warning shots. First of all, warning shots are never a good idea, folks. Warning shots cannot be utilized safely in pretty much every situation, especially that type of situation where there are a lot of people in a small space. All warning shots do is put innocent people at a very high risk of getting shot. As all of you know, bullets don't stop when they hit a wall. They go through walls, they go through glass, and they unfortunately have a tendency to find their way into people, injuring them and obviously in the worst cases, killing them. So suggesting, warning shots is not a great idea on the part of Lindsey Graham. also suggesting the authorization of deadly force to be used against unarmed people merely because they are in a section of a building is just incredibly reckless, in my opinion. One of the beautiful parts about our country is that we can protest and we can, to a point, do things like this and not have to worry about the government killing us. Sure, we might end up in jail. We're going to have to answer for our crimes, but we do not get killed by our government. You come armed, sure. If you're running around with guns, obviously you're going to have an issue. If you come armed with bombs, yeah, you're going to have an issue. You have knives, pitchforks, axes, sure, you're going to have an issue. And, at that point you are entering a building where people, there are protected people. You have any type of tool or object, explosive that could kill those people. Deadly force is going to be utilized. We did see a female who was shot in the neck by I believe it was the Capitol Police, and she died, and she was unarmed. So, like I said, you come armed, sure. You come with bombs, sure. Knives, pitchforks, axes, anything that can kill another person, sure. You are going to be met with deadly physical force. However, we're talking about unarmed citizens. I don't think there was a single firearm. I could be wrong. I haven't seen anything on the news that showed that there were firearms that were brought into the floor of the Senate. I think it's reckless. I think it's a bad idea. And I think suggesting that we use an authorized deadly force against unarmed civilians is a problem. I think Lindsey Graham's comments prove even more why our Second Amendment is the most vital of all the amendments. So, folks, we just wanted to put out a quick show about how we felt about what Lindsey Graham had to say, and how dangerous we think it is for him to even suggest something like this. If this type of talk from government figures bothers you too, which I hope it does, talk about it with people. Let people know. Contact Lindsey Graham. Tell him how you feel about what he said. I think it's a step in the wrong direction to give the government more power in this sense, especially when people are just, they, up until a point, they were exercising their freedom to protest. Even being in the building, which has happened before in our history, even being on the Senate floor, which has happened before, interrupting the process of the government has happened before. I don't think that gives the government the reason or the authority to use deadly force against us. Like I said, if you have weapons, that's another situation altogether. If you're killing people, that's a different thing altogether, obviously. But for a lot of these people, they were just there. They although they were doing something wrong in the sense of they were trespassing, a lot of them did not do anything violent. They did not kill police officers. They did not break windows. They did not, destroy property. So to suggest that we are going to use deadly physical force on them just because they're in the building, I think it's something that we really need to take seriously and something that we really need to think about. This is where I'm going to leave everybody off today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for tuning in. We'll have another full-length episode for you coming up and some more quick shots. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. Check us out, Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts. If you're still supporting them, you can check us out on Podbean if you are boycotting any of the big tech companies. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and as always, be safe.